here today is a victory for democracy. It's a testament to what people can do when they come together for the greater good. This is also one of those occasions where the Supreme Creator reminds us once again that power does not reside in any one person. It is His will to give power to whoever He wants and take power from whoever He wants. Before I proceed, let us pause to honor the memory of colleagues with whom we started this journey, but who sadly are not here with us today. We lost the late Senator Ali Wakil, Bauchi South, Isiaka Adetunji Adeleke Osun West, and Buka Mustafa Kassan North in the line of duty in the Senate. I ask that we observe a minute silence for the continuing repose of their souls. May we all stand up and just for the final time. May the Almighty grant them eternal rest. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank each and every one of you for your contributions towards making this the historic Senate that it is. When I think of the many trials and tribulations we all faced as an institution, and my own personal trials, particularly the Code of Conduct Tribunal, I am indeed humbled because none of our achievements would have been possible without the support and cooperation of the entire members of this chamber. I want to thank particularly those who stood with us day in, day out during the trials, who were physically present there, and also thank those who were not there, but were there in mind to support. The invasion of the National Assembly by armed security operations in August 2011 will live in infamy. This way down the line, however, I realized that the day of that invasion was the saddest, but in many ways it was also a good day for asserting the independence of the legislature and the triumph of democracy. It also turned out to be a showcase of the special relationship between this chamber and the House, as honorable members stood in unison with their Senate colleagues in defiance of the invaders. I thank the House of Representatives for this remarkable unity of the two chambers, for it was only a unity that we could withstand the storm. The pieces of legislation we passed in the crucial arenas affecting the daily lives of citizens on the economy, education, security, anti-corruption, and health will remain a benchmark. Working together, we clocked many firsts in this 8th Senate. And we should rightly be proud of this, especially as the imperishable legacies we're leaving for the people. Our many firsts include the National Assembly joint public hearing on the budget, which we started in 2016 appropriation bill. The engagement of the private sector and other stakeholders in crafting economic legislative agenda was a watershed. For the first time, there were meetings and interaction with members of the public, which were not previously the norm. On such interaction was a public Senate, which gave youths the opportunity to spend a day with me as President of the Senate and see what we do. I have pleasant memories of my reading to the audience of small children inside my office in the true spirit of Children's Day. The kids themselves were the dignitaries. It was during this Senate that we patented the concept of round table. This was groundbreaking. We left the center of power in Abuja to tackle pressing social issues at every heart of the communities most affected. Notably among these were the Senate Roundtable on Drug Use, which we held in Kano in December 2017, and the one on migration and human trafficking we held in Benin City in February 2018. At both events, with not only dialogue for solutions with relevant government agencies, international partners, community leaders, we heard from the victims themselves. In Kano, we heard the harrowing story of Zainab, a recovering drug addict. In Benin, we listened to the account of a young woman who was rebuilding her life after being trafficked to Russia for sex trade. And we heard from Victory, who had been sold into slavery in Libya. We let these people know that their voices count. Indeed, the voice of every Nigerian counts, and the 8th Senate lent its ear to them. We were alive to our responsibility to those whom we serve, and we engage with them on their terms. It should be a matter of pride to all 109 senators and to our offspring that in this chamber we push humanity first. I will always be proud of the humaneness of the 8th Senate. Ours has been a legislator with a human face, personal touch, moved by the milk of human kindness. Whenever the situation demanded, we left the imposing edifice of the National Assembly to reach out to the person on the street. We show that Parliament belongs to the people, and there should be no barrier between lawmakers and those they represent. One of our major acts upon inauguration was a Senate visit in August 2015 to Maiduguri, Borno State, the first ever National Assembly delegation of the leadership to see firsthand the living conditions of thousands displaced. A senator from the south moved the motion that led us to Maiduguri, and one of the many times we showed the world that senators act as Nigerians first, not as Southerners or Northerners. The 3 senators representing Borno State were among the delegation, and we called on the Shehu of Borno to assure him that rebuilding the Northeast was high on our agenda. We visited IDP camps, spoke with the people, carried the babies, comforted them, letting them know that their well-being was a priority of the Senate. Today, the Northeast Development Commission is a reality and the people have been resettled. There was a very moving encounter with Ali Hamadu, the 6-year-old Boko Haram victim from Chibok. Our joy knew no bounds when he returned walking and smiling after life-transforming surgery in Dubai. Little Ali from Chibok was one of the many individuals whose lives were directly touched by the 8th Senate. We stood with families and communities across this country in times of trouble. I remember the case of Linda Igwetu, the NYSC Corps member killed by a SARS operative here in Abuja. On behalf of the Senate, I placed a call to our sister to offer our condolences and to speak to the need for justice in the matter. When Ms. Hilda Eva Amadi tragically died at the NYSC orientation camp in Ilorin, Kwara State, we as Senate were there to condole those grieving their loss. We made donations towards the renovation of facilities at the camp and medical supply. Every single Nigerian life matters, and we demonstrated that in symbolism and actuality of our actions at all times. Many Nigerians cried out for help. We did not turn deaf ears. You all remember, my distinguished colleagues, the case of Ms. Monica Osage, who accused our lecturer of demanding sex for marks. As a responsible Senate, we backed up the sexual harassment law we had enacted by passing a resolution issue and conducted an investigation in the allegation. Responding to the needs of Nigerians was one of our calling, and by so doing, I believe we made a real difference in people's lives. When there was contention or strife, we were agents of peace and helped to find a way, drawing meetings with the Minister of Health, Minister of Labor, together with leaders of the joint health sector unions, were able to bring an end to the biting 6-week-long JOC strike, which had tripled the health sector in the country. We said we will help end the deadlock, and we kept the promise. A Senate resolution was the critical factor in ending the 2-year impasse at Ladoke Akintola University of Technology in Ogbomoso, which had kept 34,000 strong student body in limbo due to the closure of the institution. But the students were able to resume their education in September 2017 following our resolution, which was another promise that we kept. We promised transparency in the National Assembly budget and kept our words, subjecting National Assembly budget to public scrutiny. The first time since Nigeria returned to democracy. We engaged with a delegation of nurses and midwives, led by my wife in her capacity as a global goodwill ambassador to International Confederation of Midwives, and listened to their concerns about high infant and maternal mortality rates in Nigeria. We promised to review relevant laws and pass new ones to make for better condition of service for nurses and midwives as one way of bringing about an improvement in mortality rates, in particular in the health sector as a whole. We kept that promise too, And one notable outcome was the setting aside of the 1% of Consolidated Revenue Fund, CRF, for Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. This gave a massive boost to health funding in the country, allowing access to basic healthcare for thousands more Nigerians. Just the other week, the Minister of Finance called the 1% CRF that this National Assembly passed a game changer. No doubt, by our activity in this chamber, we are touching the lives of Nigerians, even those unborn. Speaking of commendations, our intervention on health also won plaudits from international philanthropists, Bill Gates, Bono, the Director General of the World Health Organization. Similarly, our amendment of the Universal Basic Education Act, guaranteeing free education for children aged 9 to 12, won praise from education rights activists and Nobel laureate Mala Yousafzai. Still on promises kept, we made at the Made in Aba Trade Fair in Abuja 2016, and that was a springboard for the legislation on Public Procurement Act in fulfilling our vow to manufacturers at the fair. We maintained the focus with our Made in Nigeria initiative. We saw the Nigerian Army ordering 50,000 pairs of boots from Aba manufacturers that same year. We've talked a lot about the number of bills, but it's just not the number of bills. We're able to crack the code of several bills that had been eluded Senates before us. We broke the decade-old petroleum industry bill into a quartet of workable bills, including the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, whose passage stands as a major achievement of the 8th Senate. The Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, was the most comprehensive reform law governing Nigeria business environment in nearly 30 years. We cracked that as well. The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit Bill was one of the major anti-corruption laws we passed and saved the country from being expelled from the global body of Egmont Group. And as recently as May 2022, we passed the Nigerian Football Federation Bill, which again have been caught in legislative bottleneck for 15 years. In these 4 years, we are fully engaged on the state of insecurity in the country and spearheaded many initiatives to bring sustainable peace and secure and protect the lives and properties of citizens. The 8th Senate organized a National Security Summit which made recommendations for bringing an end to problems. Moreover, the Senate engaged with security chiefs to provide broader understanding of the issues and urged them to make presentation to us on their requirements. We constantly engage with the international community on the need for them not to only support the war against insurgency, but to also lift the ban on sale of arms to Nigeria. I'm happy to report you can recollect the Senate had to cut short our vacation in order to receive a U.S. congressional delegation and persuade them on the need to canvass for the lifting of arms sales ban for more effective counter-insurgency strategies. It was this meeting that we held that the national U.S. delegation went back to the Senate and lifted the embargo on sale of arms to Nigeria. At every turn, the Senate utilized every opportunities of courtesy call and foreign visit to rally support for the fight against Boko Haram. The Senate that passed the landmark Not Too Young rule to run law to bring more young Nigerians into governance framework was also a great supporter and enabler of youthful aspiration and innovation. We met with members of the Not Too Young to Run movement and promised to do our bit to help realize their dreams of assuming the mantle as leaders. The resultant law opened the pathways for inclusion of fresh young faces in 2019 election, a victory for participatory politics and democracy. The 8th Senate has been there for Nigerians of every social class and every field of endeavor. It gives me a sense of fulfillment to know that we did something worthwhile in this venerated space. My advice to whoever succeeds me is therefore along the same vein, for us to be there for the people. Act in the interest of the average Nigerian. Keep the legislature always at the behest of citizens. Let it be a people's parliament. Whoever succeeds in that person will still be a product of this 8th Senate. We did it together and let there be continuity. As we see all the things we have done, we must also be reflective and candid enough to acknowledge the things we didn't do. It is important that I make some comments about the legislative and executive relationship. It is my hope that in the 9th Senate, that the executive and the legislature will continue to work and develop even a better relationship. My advice is for the executive to see that National Assembly work on budget is not an interference, but it is in line with the provision of the Constitution. That the presidency and National Assembly leadership should continue to consult much before even submission of budget to legislature. And that it encourages to also see that failure to appoint or confirmation of few appointment is not a source of disagreement, that the then relationship will not improve. The executive must see that the legislature is not a rubber stamp without the right to question his actions. It is a subversion of principles of separation of powers and checks of powers. My advice for both arms of government have a role to play in our quest for good governance, and their leadership should work for cooperation and for fruitful engagement. If we go by our records in the 8th Senate, in the areas of confirmation, all confirmations that had to do with judiciary, we had 100%. Confirmations to do with ministers had 100%. Confirmations to do with ambassadors also had 100%. I think, and others had over 90%. I think this shows the level of cooperation that we did provide to the executive during this period of time. But it's important that what is its key is that we must strengthen our democratic institutions. And it is that role that all of us here and in the next assembly must play a role in. It is my hope that the 9th Senate will improve on our performance and deliver on those areas we were not able to touch. At this junction, let me express my gratitude to the Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Kirimadu. History will be kind to you and providence will shine upon you. I am sure you never thought you'd be Deputy Senate President in an APC majority parliament, but it happened. Nobody made you Deputy President of the Senate. The Almighty willed it to you. You have been a source of support, and I thank you immensely. You have become a brother and a friend. I thank you immensely. I want to thank the Majority Leader, Ahmed Lawan. Our paths started in different parts, as you said. In 2015, you also wanted to become the President of the Senate. But again, I always believe that what we've seen in these 4 years is that the Almighty God is one that wills power when He wills the power. And when the time comes for the Almighty God to will the power, it will happen effortlessly. I thank you for your support and how we have worked together as a Majority Leader. Your mark here and your record reflects for itself. I also want to thank the former Majority Leader, Ali Ndume, who has also made his mark. Between the former Majority Leader and the current Majority Leader, it is clear that one of you will take over the leadership of President of the Senate. Whoever emerges, I wish you the very best of luck. But I think that as you are part of this 8th Senate, I am sure you will carry that experience into the 9th Senate. I see maybe it is providence that there are only 2 aspirants at this time as I speak. I see the Deputy Senate aspirant and I see a Senate President aspirant. So I address this to you. I wish you the very best to serve the interests of the people and to ensure that you have in the back of your mind that power is transient. I must not forget to pay a tribute to my predecessor, distinguished Senator David Mark, for his quiet dignity and fine example to all of us in this chamber. I'll be forever grateful for your support and wisdom. To my colleagues in the leadership, where do I start? My many thanks, as I said, also to the Deputy Leader of the Senate, who anytime I got confused on the way to go, I call him to speak. 2 advantages was that he gives me time to collect my thoughts on what to do next. And more importantly, he guides on where we should go and ends up confusing me in the process as well. The chief whip is not here, but the chief whip is truly a friend. He truly speaks to power and tells you where you're wrong. He's been a great advisor for me. I want to also acknowledge our deputy whip, who I wish you the very best. I hope the kind of support you gave the chief whip, you will give to these of the leaders. I want to also, at this point, to my dear sister, the minority leader, I want to thank you immensely for your support. I want to also thank Senator Boacha, who we started off not as close, but we gave her time to respect ourselves and work together. You're a great man because you speak the truth at all times. What can I say about Philip Aduda? Philip Aduda, well, let me give some advice again. Leader, I hope you're listening. Philip Aduda was my radar. When I look at him, I know the temperature of this chamber. And if I don't look at him, he comes across to let me know the temperature of the chambers. I thank you for the guidance that you have given to me during this period of time. There's no way I can end this speech without recalling a certain injunction which goes, if we speak the truth, we die. If we lie, we die. So we must well tell the truth. What would this Senate have been without dear brother Dino Milai's flamboyance, Skachton Oshani's songs? The ASN was never been in danger of becoming steady. Senator Kabiru Marafa, also his colorfulness. It was always a challenge managing Senator Kabiru Marafa and his governor. I thank God I was able to manage it. But I wish them, I'm sure one day, like politicians, they will come together again and reconcile for the interest of Zamfara State that needs all leaders to come together because of the challenges in the country, in the state. I want to thank the Clerk of National Assembly, Omolori, who helmed the Parliament's administrative admirably. Let me also recognize the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Samayan, for the work they've done of that committee. They have taken the Ethics Committee and the kind of work they've done on petitions to a level that we've not experienced. It's taken a lot of hard work. Let me commend them and thank them for what they've done. None of the day-to-day activities of the Senate would have been possible without the unsung people who ensure that all parts of this great machinery of this institution are kept moving and ticking. The Clerk of the Senate, ever dependable Nelson Ejewo, comes off a mention. Commendations to the clerks at the table, the Sergeant of Arms, and all your staff, the mace bearer who carried out the duty with diligence, and who were called upon at that noble day to put their life at stake. As they say, you are heroes and you're heroines. We thank you for what you've done. History will be kind to you, and we appreciate your commitment to this institution. I want to thank all the ushers, the Senate press corps, who ensured that everything we did was communicated in Nigerians all platforms. But I want to make a special thank you to the cameramen, who, when I was tired and likely not enough, were kind enough not to focus their lens on me. I thank you immensely for this. I encourage them to extend the same service. Listen to this. Carry that same service too to your incoming Senate President. If he's not enough, make sure you don't show him. Let me, on this note, thank all my own personal staff who worked tirelessly to ensure that many of the visions we now celebrate are turned into reality. In closing, distinguished colleagues, one of the greatest joy for me is that throughout this period of 4 years, there was no whiff of any scandal involving senators of the said Senate. We know that in this business, there are a lot of slippery banana peels around the place, but I thank God that all of you were able to carry out your oversight duties with a bearing and sense of property worth of this office. You played your part in strengthening Nigeria's democracy. May the work we have done here bring forth fruits, length and breadth of this great country of ours, and maybe be so for years to come. And so to the question, how do we define the 8th Senate Federal Republic of Nigeria? We define ourselves not just by the record of number of bills passed. We define ourselves by the belief that we fought for democracy, held government to account, and made personal sacrifices. For some of us, sacrifices are still being made, owing to the fallouts of some of the decisions taken. I have no regrets because at first among equals, we bear collective responsibility for those decisions. As a leader, however, I take responsibility. The buck stops with me. In doing all this we did in this chamber, we always used to believe that poverty knew no party, religion, tribe, or region. We came together in response to the need of Nigerians as a whole, and we got the job done. It should be said of us that we are truly representative of all constituents. As we conclude, we should nurture the relationships that we have built. For those of us who will not be part of the 9th Senate, I wish every one of you the best of luck in your next endeavors. I want to thank the colleagues once again who were grateful in giving me this opportunity, a great honor to serve this Senate and serve this nation. But before that, the largest thank you must go to my constituency, who found me worthy of being elected to represent my constituency. Because without representing my Senate, senatorial zone, I will not be here as a Senate President. And for those of you who voted, I once again let me thank you for all the support. Let me appeal to those of you who are coming back. The support that you give me, please give it to the next Senate President. Because whoever the next Senate President is, he's one of us. He's part of us. And it is in the interest of the institution that this institution stays strong. It is when our institution is strong that democracy is strong. I thank you all. Thank you, my colleagues. God bless you. Thank you so much. Distinguished colleagues, at this point, I will now have to put the question. I put the question, those in favor that this Senate do adjourn, Senate die. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The Senate of the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria hereby stand adjourned, Senate die.